Okay, so with the characters out of the way, let's get on to the actual story elements that don't relate to specific characters.
Yes.
First of all, something I want to address, which is a little bit maybe on the duller side, is we learn a bit more information pertaining to the machines that belong to Kevis and Agnes, the ones we've seen in the first trailer, because we saw quite a bit about them here. Um, so I suppose one thing I would like to point out is that we've now got logos for both Kevis and Agnes.
Right.
Kevis's is like a triangle with. If you'd like me to send it to you, I can.
Oh, that'd probably be helpful.
Um,
Yeah. I did not have
yeah,
them.
Kevis's is like a triangle with a circle in the middle,
All right. Yeah.
and Agnes is. I don't even know how to explain it. It's there.
Yeah. Interesting.
There it is.
I'm not sure there's much we can glean
So,
from these, or
really not a lot, to my knowledge, but
hmm.
I'm sure people have found them in like Latin
Yeah.
mythology somewhere. You know what I mean? Like Gnosticism is coming back or something.
Most likely.
Um, yeah, there'll be something there. But on all the websites, like all the Kevis characters have the Kevis symbol, or the Agnes characters have the Agnes symbol.
Hmm.
It also appears on some of the clothing, such as on Lanza's coat.
Yeah.
Um, so that's pretty cool that we have like those signs for them. As for the actual machines, we see from Kevis there's like a huge machine that is like destroying land at the beginning of the trailer, rolling over loads of stuff. It seems like a place that you can visit that might even have like a city on top of it.
Hmm.
Or at least something similar will have a city on top of it. But it seems like, again, Kevis really has like Mechonis looking equipment
Yeah.
all over the place. Which suggests to me personally that Machina might take like a larger role in this game than they even did in Xenoblade 1.
It's plausible, especially
Because, of course,
if the theory about lands and that is correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
then there's something related to them as well in there, definitely. But like Egil's not around to build all the mechons, so clearly someone has.
Hmm.
The Machina have the knowledge too.
It would make sense.
So yeah, possibly even ones we know of, such as Vinea.
Yeah.
Because of course the lifespan's very possible. So yeah, they definitely seem to be a driving force here. Albeit a lot of the technology is also modified with like blue rings that we know Shulk had one of on his equipment
Right. Yeah.
in Future Connected. So again, possibly a lot of this stuff is a combination of Shulk and Machina working together to make a bunch of crazy high-tech stuff, alongside of course the high end tier as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of theory in terms of that. There's a huge like battle monster that we see controlled by Ethel against Cam Navi, and that seems to have like dual swords just like Ethel has. I'm going to keep flip-flopping between the pronunciation.
Yeah. Until we get something official.
I don't like Ethel as a pronunciation.
No.
I think Ethel's way better.
Evil
but...
sounds more Xenoblade-y.
It does, yeah. So she seems to be controlling that in like a huge battle. But at the same time, we see something extremely similar, possibly the same machine, attacking Voldy in one of the scenes. Possibly what I suspect to be like a defect of sorts, perhaps.
Yeah.
That you fight maybe early-ish in the game, and it's like, this is a one that's not working, help us take it down, because it's malfunctioned, I don't know. But yeah, that's a little bit more insight into the technology, kind of like a more agile version of the faced Mechon by the looks of it. Much more sort of humanoid skeletal forms.
Yeah.
Pretty insane. And then the one final thing to point out here is that in one of the scenes, and again I'll send a picture to you, on top of the huge rolling machine, we see two characters standing above it, and I don't recognise either of them.
No.
I have no idea who they are, because it seems like there's one person in the front with white hair, and then like maybe a subordinate behind that actually looks a little bit like Noah. So
You really can't tell from that from how zoomed out it is. No. And even if you could, I don't think they
it's
are.
only like a split second.
Yeah.
But they seem to be at the forefront of that huge thing.
Interesting. Does look like two new characters if I had to guess.
Yeah, so you were mentioning earlier about having an equivalent to the two Agnes members, whereas there's only one on Kevis' side. Well, that could be it.
That's true. Yeah, that could match.
They are definitely characters, ones that I think will be important, but of course we cannot learn anything else about them
No.
at this point in time at all. As for the Agnes machines, we see actually a little bit more of them. So there's that one big machine that we keep seeing. We've seen a couple times now. Kind of like that that one that seems to be attacking. It shoots like lasers everywhere out of it. It's got like a... I don't know how you'd even describe it. But it seems like a transportable ship of sorts. You know?
Yeah.
So that seems to be there. One of them has gone either offensive or you know, as a defect because they're attacking the group in one trailer. In one scene.
Yeah.
So quite possibly that is just because the group is being attacked by Agnes. They're using that to attack them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we've seen them a couple places all over the place. I'm guessing they are like maybe small transportable settlement ships of sorts. I'm not really sure.
That would make sense. Yeah.
We also see Isuragi talking to or looking up at another Kevis machine, which we haven't seen elsewhere. And I cannot really describe it any more than that because there's really not much to say about it. It just looks like another offensive droid of sorts. They're really sort of leaning heavy into the robot side of things in this game.
They are. They're upping up the mechanic stuff, which we got more of in Xenoblade 1. They sort of dropped it out for a lot of Xenoblade 2, but it's all back in full force now. Which I suppose, when you're bringing in the world from Xenoblade 1, makes sense.
Well, it almost strikes me as like these are like newer gen battle droid type things, you know what I mean? It's very odd. And what they do in fact remind me of, because we see one of them in a battle scene, is one of them looks extremely similar to one of the enemies in the World Tree. You know, the like spherical enemy, the one that's like in a ball and then it sort of...
Yeah, I do know the one you mean.
Like sort of expands to attack you. There's one of those in the trailer that's Agnes.
That's true. I thought I recognised that from something, and you were right. It does look kind of like that.
So yeah, maybe they've taken technology from the World Tree somehow. I don't know. It's hard to tell exactly. And then the final machine that they have is a huge one. The one with like the really cool looking flame spear, controlled by Cam Navi. He's the one in charge of that attacking Ethel.
Yeah.
I just think it looks really cool, to be honest. The flame spear looks sick. It's one of my favourite looking weapons so far, actually, out of all of them.
Yeah.
And I think Cam Navi actually says in a scene, he's like, face my spear. So, yeah. Sort of gives you an idea into what he's like. Next up is a plot point, which I find rather interesting, from near the beginning of the trailer. And it's where Ethel is facing the main cast, and all of the 6 in the main cast are viewed as like these shadow creatures. The Nopon aren't, but for some reason they are viewed as shadows.
The fact that the Nopon can't, I have to assume it's to do with their ability to form the Ouroboros.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing too. It's like their Ouroboros energy, which is causing them to be seen like that. It almost reminds me of fog beasts, which is possibly where fog beasts become important in the game.
Yeah, I did have that thought. Yeah.
It is reminiscent. I mean, it could just be that they look similar, because at the same time they remind me of the phantasms in the Spirit Crucible.
That's true as well. Yeah. It's like
it might be a coincidence, but fog beasts shouldn't be ruled out for this plot.
Yeah, I struggle to think like how fog beasts themselves would relate to these guys or the Ouroboros. Because the fog beasts were just generic monsters who got corrupted. But I guess maybe
They were.
Maybe there's a fear that if the people who use Ouroboros, if they release that kind of energy when they do it, and that can corrupt other enemies, and maybe that's why the other nations don't want them to use it because it's dangerous. It could be connected in something like that. Like that could be the cause of the fog, and that causes the fog beasts, perhaps.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely a good point. Like this, they find these people to be dangerous. And one thing that we can glean from the sort of the character relation charts is that with both Ethel and Isuragi attacking the group, all of the characters are like, why are you attacking us?
Yeah.
So clearly they don't know that they're being seen like this at first.
Yes.
And I have a theory that one thing I've noticed, which I was going to wait until this part to talk about, is both Ethel and Isuragi have a red eye, like a red glowing eye.
Yeah.
And I believe it's only those two. I could be wrong. Maybe Kamnavi did as well, but
I think you're right.
No, I think it was just Ethel and Isuragi, who both have, for some reason, a glowing red eye. Now, I don't know if that means that they are evil themselves, or if they've been given... I think there's a chance that both of them have been, like, inflicted with this red eye, whether it be by Melia and Nia, or the evil Ouroboros, or whoever it is.
Yeah.
For some reason, they've both had this red eye thing inflicted on them that causes them to see the party like this. You know, that I think they're both being manipulated. And this is where both of those arcs comes in. Is that they both have been inflicted with this red eye, so they both see the party as evil and as these shadows. Hence why, you know, they're trying to attack them.
That would be interesting. Because the other way, you could look at it as if maybe they've been given something which allows them to detect it. So it could just be a sense of they are able to detect the power that others can't. But that is an interesting look at it, that what if it was they were given that ability to manipulate them to think it's evil when it's not. That is definitely not out of the question.
Yeah, and this kind of fog vision shadow thing is, I think, the main reason why the group is going to be chased and attacked, is because they are being viewed like this.
Yeah.
They're like, let's get them, they're evil. Of course, you know, with the Ouroboros thing itself, but like, this is the way they're identified to have that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the red eyes is going to be a very important factor that only very specific characters have. Whether it's like a deliberate thing or if it's a manipulation thing,
Yeah.
it's going to be important. I guess next point is... Oh yeah, the arm Monado.
Straight up doing Iron Man stuff, it's cool.
Yeah, literally Iron Man. So, you know, we see in one of the trailers that Noah has this sword, which I don't believe has a name yet still. But it's basically Monado free. Wait, no, Monado free already exists in Xenoblade. Version free, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Where the sword, he can like... It's almost as if the red part of it is treated like a... Oh god, what do you call it? The sheath. So he sort of pulls it out. There's a silver looking sword inside, which might be special, might be just like a random sword. And then the red part of the sword sort of latches onto his arm and becomes his arm.
Yeah.
God knows how that works in combat. Maybe it's a mechanic, maybe it's just like a story thing that happens.
It's hard to say. I mean, it reminds me of like Cloud in Final Fantasy Advent Children, when you see in his Final Smash, where he like takes the sword apart and there's like different swords and that. No, it's definitely not to that level,
exactly.
but it's really a really interesting design thing. It's just straight away, it just looks badass. And if that's as simple as it is, that is just done something so he can have a cool arm thing and it looks badass, I'm cool with that. But I do wonder, what does this, if it will affect gameplay, or if it is just a, like, is it like a finisher move he can use or something to absorb something with the arm, or I don't know.
Yeah, and there is also one thing I noticed from going frame by frame through the trailer, and I can't tell if this is an error or if it's a very important story thing.
I think I know what you mean.
What are you thinking? What do you think I'm talking about?
Does his arm just come off his body?
Yes.
Yeah. I did notice that.
So, something is going on here, where in a frame his arm isn't part of his body, but then even in the couple frames after that, it still looks like the, you know, sort of the arm part closest to his shoulder still has something wrong with it. There's like purple lines streaking from it.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually it could just be a coincidence, but it's very possible that Noah's left arm, well, he doesn't have one.
Yeah,
Maybe?
maybe. I don't know if it was just like
Or like there's something wrong with
that
it?
was a cutscene, wasn't it? It wasn't gameplay. Um,
Hmm.
so if it was just gameplay, I might think maybe it's just the animation. Just it doesn't need to show it because it's a very quick thing, and
Yeah.
no one's gonna freeze it in game or anything. And it could still be the case, but the fact that it does that in like a full cutscene, it
It's really
it
odd.
is. It could be insignificant. It could just be like because if you're not freeze framing it, you're not gonna notice. It doesn't matter. But
Hmm.
it does make you wonder because that's still something you wouldn't usually see. Like, I can't see why it would happen, like animation wise.
Yeah,
So
I
I don't
agree.
know.
I'm also noticing that in his arm in that one frame, very much a part of it around his elbow is like a pure green light before the rest of it is even latched onto him.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering if perhaps again maybe that's just like a way for them to layer it all in terms of the animation and the 3D models. It very well could be, but maybe again like there is something deeper going on here with his arm. You know, maybe he is like an amputee or something special is going on there. It's really hard to tell whether it was just an error or a genuine story point.
yeah. Time will tell, I
I'm not
suppose.
sure what to make of it yet.
Hmm.
Yeah, but either way, really cool Monado arm.
Yeah,
I like it. And then one other thing we see in one of the other scenes near the very end is we notice that all of the characters summon their weapons into existence in a cutscene, including Noah. And they all do it within. It's like a red and orange sort of. I really don't know how to describe it, but like near the end of the trailer, you'll notice as they're in like a purple fog of sorts. They all just draw their weapons and they like appear magically in like an orange and red light,
yeah.
and then they form in their hands like magically. They don't have the weapons on them before that. So
It does. I mean,
and you also can't see whether it happens to the Nopon's weapons or not, but I don't think it does.
yeah, that is interesting because they're not all blades, so it's not like summoning blade weapons.
Yeah, and I don't think this is related to the Ouroboros stuff either.
Hmm.
So maybe this is just a thing people can do.
Yeah,
I don't know. Sort of reminds me of in Xenoblade 2 where the same thing happens with your weapons in like bits.
hmm.
Because the weapons regenerate and whatnot.
That's true. Yeah,
Changing forms and whatever. It could be related to that, but again, there's something there that may or may not be explained.
yeah,
Alright, getting onto the juicy bits of the story then. Sort of, maybe one of the biggest things they announced is, the interlink process first. The interlink process by which the characters can see each other's memories and is caused by emotions and the power of friendship.
yeah.
And, and then they transform.
That's the new gameplay twist. That I mean,
It
we're all
is.
wondering. Sort of every game has some sort of big mechanic, and it feels like that could
Hmm.
be, like the seeing the future equivalent. It's
Pretty much, yeah. Golden Light is in the exact same way as Foresight in Xenoblade 2.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, it definitely is very much the big power of friendship uh, process. I like how it looks. I like how the animation looks. And the main thing here, before we actually get onto the Ouroboroses themselves, is that it seems like, they say that these are triggered by like strong emotions, I believe.
hmm.
And it's actually a point that we can see for both Noah and Mio, and then also Lance and Cena, where these happen in the game, possibly.
Yeah,
So we can see that Noah and Mio's is triggered by the big monster fight that they're having against that huge evil Ouroboros.
yeah,
It seems like maybe, they both do this during that fight. Probably as the first one. It makes sense for the main characters to get the first Ouroboros transformation.
hmm.
So they get it in that battle as a tutorial of sorts, and then that kind of spurs on the rest of the game as, oh, they've got the evil Ouroboros thing, let's destroy them all. And then through maybe the next chapter or two, the other two pairs also get the power.
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah.
We do see it with Lands and Cena. We see that they are in like that rocky land, perhaps in a showdown with Ethel, but maybe just like a completely unrelated thing. I'm not really sure. But it seems like they are going to unlock their Ouroboros by seeing that Noah and Mia are in danger, which would make sense considering they do both appear to be tanky, protect my friends type characters.
Yeah.
So, that's really all there is from there. I was trying to look around like the memories that they had in those scenes, and the only thing of note, apart from, there's Tayon's got like a character in his, but I can't really tell much from that, is that in Noah's memories, when Mio is looking into Noah's memories, the flute guy shows up over and over again from the first trailer.
Alright. I didn't notice that. Huh?
Yeah, the flute guy doesn't show up in this trailer at all. But he keeps on appearing non-stop in Noah's memories. So maybe, again, that's like sort of background to Noah's story. Maybe he saw the flute being played as a kid.
Yeah, that could be.
That makes sense. I still don't know if the flute player themselves is actually important. I don't think they are. But I still think the scene with them is important. Maybe it's where Noah's like, oh, this is where I first learned about the power of flutes or something. I don't know. It's possible, okay? Bear with me. Then, yeah, the actual Ouroboros themselves, then.
Yes.
What do you think?
I mean, I like the designs. I think it's an interesting idea, and immediately the most noteworthy thing to me, the thing that stands out the most is the first two seem kind of like androgynous, I suppose, whereas one is specifically very much female looking, which that's the first thing that stands out to me, and I wonder what the significance of that is. But I don't know if you have any theories on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, the main one definitely looks more androgynous. I think Lands and Cena's one does as well, but of course you can very tell it's like the protector one, they've got the big shield.
That's true, yeah.
Things in front. So maybe it's just representing how Taeyeon and Uni are both the support characters. So they just get one that would more be linked to support characters in other games. It's just like a personification of the type of powers they put forward.
It could be, yeah.
If I had to guess.
I wonder, yeah, you do kind of wonder where these, like, what does its look come from exactly? And that does make a good point of that. Their designs come from the kind of fighters they are and what their role will be when they form it. But it just seems like an interesting way to both provide new ways for the story to have these characters develop and interact with each other. It puts more pressure on these characters, but also a gameplay perspective. So it seems like just sort of a win-win, interesting idea for both sides of it, really.
Yeah, it's very interesting for the new big sort of theming in the game, the new big gimmick that they've got going on, the equivalent of the Monado and Blades.
Yeah.
Is this. Yeah, I like it. I to be honest, I think compared to, I think both the mystery of the Monado and Blades were both explored really well. So I'm not sure if this will top either of those. Maybe it will. Again, we'll have to see. Monolith has their ways.
Yeah.
But I am really liking this still, nonetheless.
Yeah.
I like the concept.
Definitely.
So we can see they have been officially called Ouroboroses, by the way, on the English websites even.
Yeah.
They are the result of those interlinks that we talked about, containing, like, both party members are inside of each other, which is a bit AO.
Yes.
They have energy, like, spheres at their cores. Not like the evil guy who had the infinity one, but these guys have sort of like an orange, sparky type core. Which I'm guessing is just like the core of their hearts or something, It makes sense design-wise, I get it. So, yeah, I like the designs. I think they're good. I don't know how much more we can really say about them because they just look cool.
Pretty much, yeah.
Um, the thing in terms of the story is that, of course, Melia and Nia are both doing all they can to stop the Ouroboros,
Yeah.
and that's a very curious point within itself because I'm noticing when I was rewatching the trailer, they refer to it as like a single one being. They say stop Ouroboros. But all of these are free Ouroboroses, aren't they? Even if you say that all, multiple Ouroboroses are still called an Ouroboros, she doesn't say that. She just says stop Ouroboros, as if there is only one of them.
I guess if that's something they're named after, like maybe that's the name of the big one we're seeing, that is Ouroboros, and they're using its power or something. I suppose it could be
Very
something
possibly,
like
yeah. I suspect that when they say stop Ouroboros, maybe they don't know that the characters are these. Maybe they see all four of the Ouroboroses we've seen so far as the exact same thing.
It's possible.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it seems very odd to me that they aren't referring to a group of Ouroboroses. They are... Melia and Nia talk of it as if only one exists. So... Maybe the cast is actually just in trouble because this one Ouroboros guy is very evil, and then they've all been given the same form, so everyone's like, oh, they've got that same form, they must be evil too.
Yeah.
I think that might just be it.
Could be.
It wouldn't surprise me. It doesn't seem too outlandish.
Yeah.
And then, one more thing to talk about, which isn't really story, but it's something, is the music.
It's good.
So... Yeah, we have like two kind of themes we've heard so far. The first is the main theme, which is on like YouTube and stuff like that. If you look at it, it's on the Japanese website. What do you think of it, Matt? What's your opinion on the main theme?
I actually haven't listened to it because I kind of don't want to hear it until the main thing. I'm sort of holding off a bit, so I don't actually have any thoughts on it.
For reference, part of it you hear at the end of the first Xenoblade 3 trailer.
Right, yeah.
With the flute.
The flute thing. I do remember that bit from that, and
yeah.
All I can say is I like the choice of flutes. I do think that sort of, as well as the fact that obviously it's specifically important to the story somehow, which we didn't really learn more of this video. We didn't really see any more of the flutes. But
yeah, we didn't.
It's nice that it sort of both fits the story, but also just sounds beautiful, so I'm well up for it.
It does, it really sounds great. Yeah. Personally, I don't like it as much as Xenoblade 1 and 2's themes. I've listened to it quite a few times, and I think it's because I prefer pianos to flutes, personally.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I really like pianos by comparison.
Yeah.
But this theme isn't bad, by any means. I still really enjoy it.
No, I mean,
very good
Xenoblade 1 and 2
theme,
main themes are high bar, so...
Yeah, such a high bar.
Yeah.
And then the only other one we've heard was in this trailer. We heard basically the full version of the equivalent of Engage the Enemy and Counterattack.
I saw a video pointing out that specifically it sounds like bits of both of them. Like, not just the equivalent of that song, but it sounds like you can actually hear bits of both songs in there. So...
Yeah, I found a video just before we started recording of someone basically tried doing their own transcript of the music based on what could be heard in the trailer, and they use software to mute out any of the voices and other sounds.
Yeah.
So there is kind of an unofficial version of that song that I've been able to listen to, and it's good, honestly. It's really, it fits the exact same vibe that those two songs do. It's pretty good. It's
a good sign this game is not going to disappoint.
Yeah, I'll need to listen to the fully clean version before I give an honest verdict on it, but so far it's catchy.
Yeah.
So it's seeming very good. But that's all we've heard of really music so far. We've not got anything else.
Not too much, no.
Yeah. And then the last part of the story here to touch on, this will go much quicker, is some different locations in the game. This is something I enjoy, so we can kind of get a feel for the world building in the game, what we're going to be up against, where we might be going, especially when we're revisiting Xenoblade 1 and 2's worlds.
Yeah.
Um, so starting off is the rocky environment, which we see in a lot of the parts of this trailer, a lot of scenes. This is where we see Kevis sort of rolling their huge machine, breaking loads of rocks over it. We see that there's a bit of conflict happening here at the beginning as well. Possible that that's where like a lot of the big war stuff takes place between the two titans as well. We don't know if this is related to Mor Ardain or not, but either way, it seems to be an important landmass, despite just being big rocky valley.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, is this?
Mhm.
I can't remember back, but in the first trailer we saw the fallen arm in like a rocky area around it. Is this related to that, or is it different looking?
I think it's possible.
Yeah,
I think it's very possible, especially like the way the land stretches out. And then the most notable thing is the trees with like the orange leaves on them are the same.
right. Yeah,
So I think that the Fallen Arm place is going to be in the same landmass as this, but nowhere near the scenes we actually saw in the trailer.
yeah,
It'll probably be in like the upper end of the map.
yeah.
But the exact same environment though, definitely. And then we also saw a scene with like the floating rocks in midair in the first trailer. We didn't see any more of anything to do with that. But I'm suspecting that maybe that's like above whatever's going on here in some way.
Potentially, yeah.
So that's kind of what we can gather. It's also possible that because this is related to the Fallen Arm place, it also leads into that huge landmass of the grassland that we saw.
Yes.
And it's like one huge landmass, which is... There's a couple different points there that we'll touch on in just a second. But it seems to all be related, which is cool.
Yeah.
The second place, again very minor, is this Kevis territory that I was talking about earlier with Voldy, where you fight like a big Kevis mech there, you meet Voldy there. The walls to me remind me strongly of Colony 6. It might not be, but it reminds me of Xenoblade 1 landmass.
Yeah.
It just in like the textures. You don't see those textures in Xenoblade 2. So, I don't know. I don't know exactly what it could be, but I have a very strong suspicion that that is Kevis land. And then in another scene where the three Ouroboroses are like together at the same time, you notice like it's the background is like a castle wall of sorts or a town wall that I'm almost certain is Agnes land.
That would make sense, yeah.
You know, like an Agnes, maybe like a town of sorts, but gives me like strong sort of Torna vibes in the materials used. Just looks really cool.
Yeah.
That's all. What else do we have? I suppose the grassland is one thing to talk about. We have a lot of different views of the grassland in this game, in a ton of battle scenes in particular.
Every Xenoblade game's got to have it, the main field.
Yeah.
The main field with the big monkey.
Yeah, so where to start? So, one place, in one scene where the cast is fighting a Kevis trooper, we see a couple of things in the background that are very interesting. One is that Araya is in the background, of course. It's in the background for a lot of places.
Yeah.
But then there are two big things we notice. One is that in the foreground almost is the back wing belonging to Gormott.
Right.
I cross-referenced it with the actual like official artwork of Gormott, or some official artwork that's been done on it. And it's like the back wing lines up perfectly.
Yeah.
So it's basically confirmed that we are, you know, some of this grassland is Gormott land, because that is part of Gormott.
Yeah.
However, at the same time, if you look a little further in the background in multiple different places, you can see the archways of Gower Plains on the Bionis leg.
So we're talking like a fusion. Interesting.
Now, yeah, it's like maybe I'd wager like a couple 100 meters back.
Yeah.
But like it's close enough that it's almost certainly some kind of a joint landmass.
Oh, the music's going to be god tier if it like fuses bits of both themes.
Could you
in there.
imagine? Oh my god.
Oh man.
I wouldn't put it past them. It's very possible that we'll at the very least get like both the motifs in there at some point.
Yeah.
For the songs.
Definitely, yeah.
Oh, that's going to be so cool.
I cannot wait.
But yeah, that's something that I noticed that is like very important in terms of, oh boy, big open grassland.
Yeah.
It strikes me that this is going to be more than just one area though, because there's so much to it.
Yes.
Because the place where they're fighting this Kevish Trooper, they're at level 32. So, you know, they're already a fair ways into the game when they're at that higher point, perhaps. But then we also see in a couple of other scenes at levels lower than that, they seem to still be in the grassland.
Yeah.
You know, based geographically, you can see that they are at like level 11 fighting the Heavy Brog, for example.
I suppose...
You can once again see part of Gormott sort of springing out of one of the walls there.
Yeah, maybe you have to come back through it and go to different sections of it, but one area might be blocked off at one point. It's definitely possible.
Yeah. Something along those lines, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
You know, so you got like some nice waterfalls in the distance. There's like a huge Kevis robot in the background of one. I'm not really sure what to make of that.
Yeah.
And then you can also see Sword Valley in the distance, which is something that will be important in a little bit.
Yeah.
And then one final point. In one of the scenes, it's suspected that you can see Territorial Rotbart.
Here it is. I mean, it's gotta be,
It's
hasn't
the
it?
big red monkey.
It-
I feel like it was deliberate.
It's a big
yeah.
red monkey, and it's when they're fighting a level 11 enemy, so you know it's out of place, because that's not going to be level 11 no matter what. So,
Yeah.
at the very least, it's got to be one of the other variations of Big Monkey, like Immovable Gonzalez. But the fact that it's moving around, it's got to be, hasn't it? I mean...
I think it has to be. It's got all of the factors that will go towards it.
And, I mean, I'd be
So-
disappointed if it wasn't there, so I'm glad.
Yeah, exactly.
Return of the King.
So that's really all for the grassland, but yeah, the Return of the King. His land has been
Yes.
returned.
The Noob Slayer is
but
back.
it definitely seems like... But yeah, we'll be returning to this Gormott Bionis Leg grassland on multiple occasions, I suspect, and it'll probably be absolutely huge.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to implement, you know, returning to it and stuff. Maybe it's like a good sort of link point to both Kevis and Agnes territory. I'm not really sure, but either way, very prominent area, I'm sure. We've seen so much of it already.
Yeah.
One other point to look at is this forest area that we see in the first trailer. You know, kind of with like the orange theming going on. I believe it may also be the same place at the end of this trailer.
Makes sense.
But it's kind of like a woodland territory of sorts.
Yeah.
Now, the location itself isn't that interesting. We can see that there's a camp there, but that's really it. The main thing is that this is the same place where we saw the two sides of the six main characters fighting each other. Whereas in the trailer this time around in that forest, we saw the evil Ouroboros guy fighting them all.
Yeah.
As a result, my guess is that this is the point in the game where the two sides meet. This is the point where the two sides fight each other. And then it's also where this evil Ouroboros guy is introduced. And Noah and Mio's power is unlocked. Like, basically, this is the point where the game spirals into its action.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Because everything past this point would be like, oh, the Ouroboros has been revealed, let's get them and stuff. But this is like the turning point at the beginning of the game, I suspect.
I could see that, yeah. Definitely seems like it.
Also seems just like I don't know, it looks like a good looking area. So, there's also that.
They know how to work their magic on the design, so...
Oh, they do. And then here's one thing I would like to point out, and I'll send you another thing of this. So earlier in the trailer, in the actual gameplay, we noticed that Sword Valley and Uriah are at different points. Uriah is its own broken thing in one area, and the sword of Sword Valley is completely separate. It's like a couple thousand meters out.
Yeah.
I say a couple thousand, probably way more than that. But like they are very distinctly in different areas.
Yeah.
The front of Uriah facing the sword.
Yeah.
Which begs the question, why in the official artwork here does it show the sword inside of Uriah?
Interesting.
It's in a different place to where it actually is in the game.
You do wonder, is it just done for style, for presentation to look like it? But it would certainly imply that sword is the reason for Uriah, which would make sense because you got a giant sword. What else could do that to Uriah? So
yeah, there's definitely background that they are deliberately withholding from us here.
Yeah.
To do with the sword and Uriah, because of course they are the two like signature things for this game now. In this we can see them both, like one going into the other, whereas before they were separate. It seems to be something inconsistent that I'm sure is because they're deliberately withholding information from us.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell us, Monolsoft. I guess that's why they moved the game 2 months earlier.
Yep. They can't hold the secrets for too long.
Yeah. And then the only other thing to note from this picture here is that you notice that Uriah isn't in the ocean. It is on top of a big landmass.
Yeah.
Which again is different to what we see at the end of Xenoblade 2, where it crashes into the land. It's on top of the land here.
Well, I mean, even in Xenoblade 2, it crashed in head first, didn't it? And like its head formed in the land, so something's happened.
Yes.
To release it. Yeah.
I wonder if they just like have. They're really concerned because they've had to retcon the end of Xenoblade 2 now. I don't know. I wonder if it's that. Because I can't think of any other way. I genuinely cannot think of any other way other than they need to retcon the end of Xenoblade 2.
Who knows?
It just doesn't make sense otherwise.
I mean, something weird is going on, but that's always the case. So they could explain it any number of ways, really.
Yeah. So as for that landmass just below it, I suspect that maybe we'll be able to explore that. You know, there does seem to be like an icy part of it near Uriah itself. There's a lot of grassland below it. Maybe that is Sword March. I don't know.
Could be.
It's just a lot of mystery.
Yeah.
Okay. And then one more location. Video will be done soon. Space. What? What's going on here?
We're getting into
What do you
endgame
make of this?
territory here. This is something that you usually see at the end of Xenoblade games. But I suppose at this point they're
What
like,
is going on?
yeah, you guys know that it's somehow related to Earth and space and crazy shit. We might as well just show it. But I mean, like, it's for a brief moment, and I don't think this is the case, but I almost wondered if that was like meant to be Elysium with like space in the background and.
Ooh,
but
maybe.
Then again, I thought it doesn't. The architecture doesn't really add up. Plus, there's like Nop on there, which there wouldn't be in Elysium.
True.
So I don't think it is. I mean, where did Nopon even come from? I mean, that's a question. I suppose evolution.
We don't
somehow,
even know.
But
I think it's evolution in both games.
yeah. But so I don't think it is that. But it is interesting that we see like, is this meant to be just like a cool visual, or is this actually a city in space?
Mm-hmm.
Because it looks like everything's frozen, it could just be like some sort of dream or something. So we can't really read too much into this as this is definitely a city in space, as opposed to it's like some sort of vision he's having or something. But it's cool to see that they are connecting things to the whole like Earth and the world, because that's got to be either that is like Earth from original Klaus's Earth, or it's the new world created at the end of Xenoblade 1 and or 2. I can't tell which. Is that their world or is that the old world? Who knows?
It's so confusing.
Yeah. But I like that we're getting into this stuff, and they don't need to hide it because we know it now. So
Yeah, they know that we understand the flow of the games
Yeah.
and whatnot. So
it's just cool to see.
interesting point about it being the original Elysium, though. I don't hate that idea actually. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I don't know that it is, because again, the stuff doesn't fully add up, but it would be cool to see that.
Yeah, a long shot, but not something to rule out.
Yeah. They've
Um,
definitely changed the look of
I-
things before, with like Xenoblade 1 to Xenoblade 2, with the whole flashbacks.
Exactly.
So they could do it again.
Well, one thing to point out here is that the building structure, the buildings are like brick,
True.
which I'm trying to figure out like who built this, what generation of people from where, because Xenoblade, this doesn't strike me as any sort of building type from Xenoblade 1, and then it also doesn't strike me as any building type from Xenoblade 2, apart from, like, I don't know, maybe Torna? But even then, no.
Yeah, maybe it is
Just-
a human thing. Even if not Elysium, maybe it's to do with a different colony in because there were other stations, weren't there? I believe.
Yep.
So
Yeah, there were 2 other stations.
maybe it's one of the other stations.
Um,
We're getting into big, tinfoil hat territory here, but that's all we can do at this point.
Yeah, I guess it should also be addressed that, of course, I mean, I think this is like an illusion of sorts, because Noah is like a child here, so I'm thinking maybe this is like a dream of his, like Shulk had
Yeah,
in Xenoblade 1. Of course it doesn't seem that real, because everyone is just very nonchalantly ignoring the fact that they are in space.
yeah,
Everyone's just very casual. This is obviously going to link to like some big endgame lore stuff. This is definitely. I have no idea what to draw from this,
No.
but it's very clearly important in some way.
and the fact that they're willing to show it off. I mean, even though of course they know that we get the space connections and the Earth connections by this point, I still don't think they would show something real like from right at the very end game, which means that the game itself is probably going to get into that stuff earlier. So, I would guess.
Yeah. I'm just gonna check something quickly. What are the names of the other 2 stations apart from Radamanthus? Because I just thought for a second, isn't one of them called Ionios? Or am I going crazy?
I feel like someone would have made that connection before had we known that. I feel like I would have heard of that.
Surely.
But I don't remember.
Oh, no, they're called, like, sort of Aeseus and Minos,
Okay.
as the other 2 beanstalks. Yeah, okay. Okay, that's what I was thinking of then, I guess. Alright, no worries. And then, I guess the only other thing to talk about, which isn't really story, but, why did they move the release date?
I can only imagine
What's
that
going on?
it was already completed. It's already done. I don't think it was a case of we're finished early, so let's just release it early, because they would have known by that. It must be to do with other
Yeah.
scheduling things, like maybe Splatoon
Surely.
3's got pushed back, and they were like, okay, we need to release this later, so let's move Xenoblade up because that's ready. It's got to be something like that.
Maybe.
Because they are not.
Yeah, I mean, Splatoon 3 we still don't have a release date for. They say summer.
Yeah.
And I pray that it's out before Xenoblade 3. But I don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, I don't
unfortunately.
think so, because June we've already got Mario Strikers and Fire Emblem.
We do.
So I feel like
yeah.
they didn't move it here because they're short on stuff to release, because they're really not. So it must be to make room for some other stuff. Maybe Splatoon 3, maybe Bayonetta, maybe some other stuff we'll find out about E3 that we don't know yet. But it makes me more scared for this year's release. I mean, they just pushed back Breath of the Wild 2, and now Xenoblade were like, nope. Have it early.
The opposite. Sigma
Yeah.
Monolith Soft.
Exactly.
Good, like, amazing working conditions. And they move games forward.
Monolith.
There's got to be something wrong with these guys, right? How are they so perfect? What's going
It's
on?
a mystery.
There's something weird, like, with how good they are at what they do. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, that's really it in terms of all of the story stuff. You know, we've now covered both the characters and the story.
Yes.
Every facet we can think of. Of course, I guess there's one more thing we can dote on, which I'd like to present, which is kind of like a theory of sorts.
Mhm.
So one point real quick is, one thing we didn't touch on was Mio's diary. where it's implied that she only has a certain amount of days left to live.
Yeah.
Sort of referring to that clock that was talked about before, and the theory that people have a certain amount of days to live. But I don't really have much else to substantiate anything more than what people are already saying.
Yeah.
But I do have a feeling, on the other hand, that I know how the game is going to proceed, especially near the start.
Uh-huh.
So I believe that the beginning of the game is going to be, just doing the setting, maybe talking about some of the background. And for the first chapter, I guess, I don't know how they're going to distribute it. You play as both the Kevis free main characters and the Agnes free separately to get used to them, tutorials on gameplay, whatnot. You then have that scene in the forest where, of course, because the two sides are at war, it's like a 3v3 fight that we see in the first trailer. And then partway through the fight, the fight is interrupted by the evil Ouroboros guy. So I think he appears. He is going to destroy them all, and of course they team up to try and repel his attacks because it's the bigger enemy. In this process, Noah and Mio's Ouroboros awakens. They're able to fight back, and the evil one perhaps just retreats. I feel like the evil Ouroboros guy is going to also kill someone in that scene, but not one of the main 6 characters, so I don't know who it would be, but it just strikes me as that point in the game. So after that happens, the 6 characters talk to each other. They realise, oh, what was that? That is something we should be taking on instead. Shortly after, they realise, maybe when fighting against Ethel, that for some reason both sides are now against them vehemently. Because of the Red Eyes, both sides have identified that group of 6 as the enemy now. So I think the group of 6 don't even realise it at first. But because of their Ouroboros energy, both sides are now chasing them, seeing them as evil.
Yeah.
To get out of both the sides attacking them at the same time, that's where Van Damme comes in. He saves them, gives them refuge for a while, and tells them about how the Ouroboros stuff works a bit. Sort of helping give a bit of intro to how they work for Noah and Mio. So I think that is kind of, you're looking at the first 10-15% of the game there is those proceedings.
Definitely plausible. I mean, going by your Ace Attorney big brains, there's a 50-50 shot. It could go either way. But I do think that's definitely plausible.
I could be completely wrong.
That's definitely plausible, but yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Past that, I don't really know how things are going to go. I don't know how the issue's even going to be resolved, but the party's going to be okay, to resolve this we need to go to Sword March, and there's just going to be lots of obstacles on their way.
Yeah. Just
like how you need to reach the head of the Bionis, or Sword Valley, or Elysium, Sword March is the equivalent.
Yeah.
To finding out the true enemy. So that'll be that. And then all I really know apart from that is that through the middle of the story, you'll have confrontations with both Ethel and Isuragi. Because, again, I think they're both the ones who will have a change of heart. I think you'll have conversations with both of them where you'll convince them that you're not the bad guy. Characters like Tyon will have their plot arcs during that time. And that's really all I've got. I don't have any predictions in terms of the end game, especially, because you know how crazy they can get.
Yeah, never know.
So I have nothing on that front.
Looking forward to finding out.
But either way, I'm sure it will link to the first 2 Xenoblade games very closely. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So thank you for watching these guys. Do appreciate it. I'll just do a quick outro here. You can find Kai on his Twitch channel. There'll be a link in the description below. Big thanks to Sam for being our graphic designer and making mega thumbnails. He works hard. And check out our gameplay analysis or talk through on our channel as well if you want to hear more about what we think of the gameplay that was finally shown off in this trailer. But we will see you guys in the future for more Xenoblade content. Take care and goodbye.
Goodbye.